welcome back to another episode of Death in Cambodia, Life in America. It is, again, as I always like to introduce myself as, your favorite host, Dorothy. And today we have another amazing guest. We've honestly been killing it with the guests lately. I've just been so honored that people are saying yes to me. Today we have Bunthoeun Real. He is an award-winning Cambodian American director and writer from Tacoma, Washington. Graduated with an MFA degree at USC and was awarded the prestigious Annenberg Graduate Fellowship for his work, and is also the recipient of the Pickford Endowment Scholarship and the George Lucas Family Foundation Endowment Student Support Fund. He is the writer and director, most importantly, of the new renowned short film, Donut Boy, which gives us insight on the emotional burdens of Cambodian American donut kids post-refugee era. Last but not least, this film got voted as USC's Best Drama 2024 First Look, the Vin de Bona Gold Circle Award, and currently is on his amazing film journey, winning a bunch of awards and going to all these different cities, getting representation for the Cambodian American story. Bunthoeun, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dorothy, for the amazing introduction.
That was all you. That really was all you. So take me back to Bunthoeun in Tacoma, experiencing the Cambodian American experience. What were some of the key points do you remember from your childhood that really you would say would sum up your experience as a Cambodian American?
Some key points. Wow. I don't know. To be Cambodian American in America, I guess like some of the key points in my childhood that I remember is like my parents were always trying to provide for us the best way they could. Like, I don't know, we ate at a bunch of fast food growing up. And also we would always go to the movies when on their days off or something, like just trying to do the normal things in America. As a kid growing up in America, you know, we faced all of our different challenges. And one thing that was particularly difficult is just trying to fit in. I think that's something we all kind of struggle with when we're of different ethnicity or not born here. So that was always a challenge. The things that our parents do, or at least my parents do, was try to keep us safe and provide for us the best way they can, you know? Mm-hmm. So.
And did you grow up with a lot of Cambodian representation? Like, did you have a lot of Cambodian friends growing up?
Yes and no. Not when we were in Tacoma, we lived in neighborhoods where there were lots of Cambodians because that's kind of what we were placed at in government housing. So we were all there. But for the most part, the people that I really hung out with were just my cousins, you know, and we have so many cousins. And so those were my friends growing up. I mean, there were Cambodians there too, but most of the time that was how it was. I remember going to school with Cambodians, but I didn't know them. I never went to school with my cousins because we were always going to a different school. So the Cambodians that I knew from different schools, we would hang out and stuff, but we never kept in touch or kept going because you're kind of usually confined to like your neighborhood, and that's where you're mostly all your friends are at. And my neighborhood was just a bunch of my cousins. So yeah, that's growing up, you know. And then later on, my family moved out to a different neighborhood, and then all of a sudden the demographics there changed because they didn't want to stay in the hood. So we moved, got a better place, and then now I'm going to school with a bunch of, you know, middle class students and families, and that was a little different.
Yeah. Did you think you grew up knowing about your parents' history? Like, did your parents share with you a little bit about the Khmer Rouge and what they had survived, or was that always something that everyone kind of tiptoed around?
My father, who knew English and was, you know, kind of our go-to person to talk and everything, like he would always try to tell us, like he introduced me at a very young age to watch the killing fields. Now
Mm.
that's something like you don't watch as a child, but we don't know. We just think movies are movies. I've been watching rated R movies since I was like 3 years old. But yeah, he was always very open about it in that way, because I think he felt it was important to know the history, to know about the people and what they've gone through. But for instance, my grandparents, especially like my grandma, like when we watch something like that, she would have a hard time watching it. So she would just leave. She's like, I'm not
Mm.
watching this. And then she would just leave. But if we were just sitting at like a kitchen table and, they're making egg rolls or something, and I'm just there, and then I'll ask a question, like they're more than happy to tell me about their experiences in the refugee camp, life before Cambodia, like all of that. And well, a lot of it is very sad, but they go through it by kind of like laughing at it. It's like
Mm.
it's like, oh, such and such, we were there's so many people dead, ha 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 ha. It's like it was very weird,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but it is, I guess, is their way to cope and to tell me about it. So, and then the funny thing is like their stories sometimes conflict. So if my uncle's there and my mom and my dad and my grandparents are there, and then they're trying to recall a certain memory that they were all there for, the person that I found out that has the best memory is my uncle, because he would always be very confident in what he says. So
Mm.
he would just be like, it's like, no, that's not what happened. I was there. This is what happened, blah, blah, blah. And eventually everyone's like, oh, I guess, yeah, you're right. I remember that, and stuff like that. So he was kind of
Yeah.
like the driving force of that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think everyone grows up with a different variation of how much and how open like our parents and our grandparents are. But I think one thing that connects all Cambodian Americans is the fact that something like that did happen. And the
Mm-hmm.
trauma that can trickle from surviving something like that can be very, very long lasting and can
Yes.
even be passed down to generations. So tell me a little bit about becoming a writer and a director. How did you always know you wanted to be a director and you had this creative side that you wanted to get into? What was that whole journey like?
My journey to becoming like a writer director was very like it had a lot of curves. So like when I was younger, in fifth grade, I had a music teacher who was putting on like this small musical play at our elementary school, and we were doing Aladdin. And then she was looking for, I guess, the kids to audition to put on this small, small musical for families and friends. And then I got the part of Aladdin in that. Now, I always liked music and I've always liked singing and things like that. But that kind of like really pushed it for me that maybe I had a creative side. And my parents were very supportive of it. They didn't really know what it was. I just kind of told them I had some school event after school, and my
Mm.
mom would give me like a Sprite, and be like, okay, I'll pick you up in like 2 hours or something, whatever, for rehearsals. They loved the school. So they were like, they trusted the school a lot. I guess it was either the school or the street. So they would rather have me at the school,
Right, right. Any
so they
any
were cool with
extracurricular
that.
you pick is fine, son.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
yeah.
Just do it. Just don't go over there and hang out with
Don't go
those
outside
kids.
the school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay in the school. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very helpful. And I guess growing my itch to act. So I wanted to be
Mm.
an actor. And throughout high school, I was a stage actor. I was in a few production. I was like the Tin Man in The Wiz. It's kind of like this, this funky version of The Wizard of Oz. And, I was in the Little Shop of Horrors as the dentist. Yeah, just a bunch of other stage plays. It was a lot of fun. And so when I went to undergrad, I wanted to be kind of an actor, but I also like was under the impression that, like arts really can't make any money or can't survive with art.
Mm.
And so I was also I was taking theater classes and chemistry. That was my undergrad.
That's
And so,
everyone's experience. Yeah, every
yeah.
Asian American household. Yeah, yeah. I was like pre med, but also like business. So
Yeah,
we
right,
all have like the
exactly.
one to make parents happy and then another one to like make us happy.
Exactly. But I quickly realized that I had to focus solely on something, and I chose acting. So the first 3 years of my undergrad, I was taking all the acting courses and theater courses to get into their BFA program. And then, I was the first to go to college. So I consulted my dad. He's super supportive of me now. I have to put that out there. He's very supportive. He's excited about all the stuff I'm making. He's telling all his friends and things like that. But at the time when I was up, declaring my major to be an actor, he was the only person like I went to because we didn't know anybody else in college at the time. And I was like, what should I do? And like, I'm going to declare this major as an actor. And he convinced me that, it's not a path that will be fulfilling monetary wise, like I'm not going to make any money doing that. So I believed him. And then, I went solely on pre-med. I was like, I'm going to do pre-med. I tried some other things before that, but then I was like, maybe I can be a doctor. Cause I read this book called, I think it's called Moving Mountains or something. I forgot what it's called, but it's about this wandering doctor who just helps a bunch of poor people in the jungles. And I thought, oh, that would be cool. If I could do that in Cambodia, just be a doctor and help like a bunch of people that can't afford the healthcare.
Yeah.
And then that didn't pan out. I actually took the MCATs and was about to apply to medical school. And then something happened in our family that required me to drop everything. So I basically stopped right there and just helped my mom. At the time, she didn't know English and she was running a business kind of by herself. So I helped her with that because, I just didn't want to have anybody else have that burden, of stopping whatever they're doing to do that. And that was that's what brought food to the table. So I wanted to do that. And I was there for a couple of years. I mean, I've learned a lot, like business management, things like that, hiring people, all skills that you need for a director, so I was very, very happy for my experience there. And then she was like, one day she was just like, I know you don't want to do this. What do you want to
Oh,
do? And,
yeah.
and, and I was just like, I don't know. I guess I'll go figure that out. And then,
Mom kicked you out. Mom was like, I know you don't want
yeah,
to be here.
she was like, and she was right, like whatever we were being comfortable, I was comfortable, I was able to afford whatever that I needed at the time. I was very comfortable, but she was right. It wasn't really what I wanted to do. And so like a friend of mine, her name is Bopa. I told her about this. It's like, hey, my mom just told me like, I can do whatever I want to do. And then she goes, why don't you get back into acting? Like that was something you were really involved with. And so I did. So I got into acting, took a few courses like at the Act Theater and studied under some great professors for like a year or something. But then I just realized that I wanted to be the person to create the stories, to put people like me in meaningful roles. And that led me down a path of storytelling and filmmaking. And I was just like, I just went all in and I didn't even think about it. It's just, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this to do this in the future. So I always had like a plan. So I learned how to make films recently. And then that was for me to apply to a film school, because another friend of mine said that to be successful, you have to, it will help your chances if you were to go to like a really good school. And so I did that because I didn't know anybody in film. Of like 5 people I met the previous year that I liked to work with, but I didn't have the connections. I didn't know anybody. And I went to school for that, for the connections, and I got in and was able to make my film, and here we are.
The school that you got into, is that USC? Is that a program
USC.
there? Okay.
Yes, that school I applied to at the time, the top 5 schools, and all of them denied me except for USC. So, It's a numbers game. You put a bunch of them in there, and hopefully one say yes.
See which one comes back. Yeah.
Yeah,
And honestly, USC is, I mean, they're still one of the top, if not the top, when it comes to
yeah.
film.
They're always teeter tottering around top
Right.
three. So, but it's a great school. I love my time at USC. So
So you were there at USC for how many years? And it was specifically a film program, correct?
yes, I got into the Master of Fine Arts in Film and Television Production, and it's a master's program. It is 3 years. Yeah, so I was in school for 3 years from 2020 until May 2023.
Okay. So you always knew then that if you were going to go down this path of highlighting stories, you knew that you wanted to do stories about people of color, about Cambodians specifically. You knew that that was kind of the goal, right?
Yeah, 100%. I've watched a lot of movies with my family, but there was this one time, like I kind of recall too. It's like one of my favorite times watching movies. It was in 1999. I've already seen this movie, so I saw it already, but I wanted to take my dad to go see it. At the time, he kind of like got too busy and didn't really go to movies, but we'll try to squeeze in a movie because we always used to do it when I was younger. And I brought him to see Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I was like,
Mm.
you gotta see this. It's not dubbed in Khmer, but you gotta see this. And so we go to it, and it's like his favorite movie of all time still. And I think it really excited him because it's on the big screen in America with people of Asian descent. And he just fell in love. He's just like, I didn't know there was movies like this that would show. Because we would always watch movies with, American actors and actresses, like white, black. That was very common, and we love those. Those are great movies. I love those movies too. But I felt like, there's not a lot of movies that have people like us. And that's what really kind of drove me to do this, to write these kind of stories, because I don't want us to, like to be forgotten. Like there's Asia, and we do see a lot of Asia, but we don't see specifically Southeast Asians, and when we do see specifically Southeast Asians, they're mostly typecast in very stereotypical roles. So I want it to be like, to just open that up, that we can be anything. We don't have to be that thing ever or all the time. We can be the lead. We can be the sidekick. We can be the villain. And so that's what really kind of drove me to be a filmmaker.
I love that you said that. And I think, in my opinion anyway, I think media and film are probably the fastest way to create or educate people in a mass population and to change people's perspective, like on a
Mm,
mass scale, efficiently. And you're absolutely right. Even me, myself growing up, it's hard to say that I had seen as much representation of Asian people. And when they are, they're definitely not Southeast Asian. And I think it's important to remind people in America and in the world that, like, Asians are also like humans, I think a lot of the
mm,
times, as you said, we get casted as like this particular role and that thing only, and generally not necessarily in like the best light.
right.
But we're human, just like
Yes.
any other white or black or any other race that can be good, can be bad, we can be heroes. So you sat down and you wrote The Donut Boy as well as directed it.
Yes.
What was your thought process in writing a story about specifically somebody who works in a donut shop? I know that you didn't work in a donut shop yourself growing up,
No, no.
but I did, and
Yeah.
it was really, really like heartwarming to see a short film about a donut kid. What
Yeah.
made you choose that specifically and write a story about that?
Well, even in Washington State, you go to a donut shop and it's always like a Cambodian family that runs it. I never put two and two together. I was like, oh, I guess that's what we do. You know, we make donuts. I have an uncle in Michigan that owned a few donut shops with his family, and I remember going to it with my grandma and just to check it out. And we had to wake up at like 2 a.m. just to go walk around a
Oh
donut
yeah.
shop.
You're
I
like,
was like, what are we doing?
what kind of place is this? What
Yeah. Like it's not open yet, right? But we went at 2 a.m. to check it out, and there's people already working, already trying to prep for the day. That was cool. And then like when I came here to California, I saw the Donut King, and there's a documentary, and I was just like, whoa. So that's how all of that really started, you know? Like I knew that donut shops had Cambodian families, but I was just so interested in like this story of this man who, you know, created a bunch of donut shops and put his people there to work, but then ended up like losing all of it. And then, you know, it was a very interesting tale. Like I recommend people watching it, just if not for the fact of the story, just to know where the pink boxes came from. So that was always kind of cool. And when I was making my film, I knew I wanted to write a story about the second generation Cambodians, like the ones that are born here or have been raised here and don't know anything about the camps or even Cambodia. I knew I wanted to write that because we see a lot of movies about the killing fields, about, you know, all of that. And that's what America kind of knows us as, you know, like, so I didn't want to do that. I chose boxing. I also don't box. I chose boxing because I knew my grandpa would watch it because he likes boxing movies, and we watch a lot of boxing movies together, and also like real boxing too. We enjoy watching boxing matches, and so I chose boxing for that. And then the donut thing was just like, you know, it was from the very beginning of the script, I was like, this is for Cambodians. We're going to put this, they're going to see them. I wanted Cambodians to see themselves on screen and just be like, that is me, you know, here. And so I wanted things to reflect our community. Like there's stuff in there that, you know, you would get notes for, and people were just like, you know, I don't understand why you put this here. And I was like, well, you won't get it, but the Cambodian people will get it, you know? Like I did that strictly on purpose, and they're always like, oh, okay, you know, like we'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's just to reflect our people. And so the donut workplace was kind of like a no-brainer. Like I knew the moment they see a donut shop and the moment they see a Cambodian family owning it, they're going to like, oh, this is a movie about Cambodians, and specifically Cambodian Americans. And that was it. And if people didn't know, now they do. So,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Would you say that was one of the most difficult things you had to overcome? Like convincing people who weren't Cambodian that certain aspects needed to absolutely be part of the film because Cambodians would get it? Was that a huge struggle?
Yeah, it was, because, you know, like you go to school, you go to this prestigious film school, and not many people are Asian Americans. You know, there's very little of us, and specifically not many of us are Cambodian Americans. You know, I lucked out and went to school with two Cambodian Americans, one in the undergrad program and one in the master's program. So I thought that was like a rarity, and it is still a rarity. And it was just so cool that they're there. Shout out to Kevin and Ethan. But it was a struggle because a lot of people didn't understand like why we would dress like that or why we would talk like that. And so a lot of professors and teachers were really helpful and try to understand it and try to make it as best as it could. But yeah, there were a lot of pushback. Like, I don't understand like why this scene happens like this or why they do that. And you just kind of, you sit there and you take the notes. And I think the one thing about being like a filmmaker is knowing what note to take. So if you don't, if that note is not going to make sense, and you know it's not going to make sense, you kind of just, thank them for their note and let it sit there, and then take the notes that would help your film and help the story, move forward. Because the story is very relatable. I didn't make it to be specifically Cambodian Americans, but the dressing is Cambodian American,
Mhm.
and so, but I imagine people would be able to watch it and find something that they can relate to and take from it, and yeah, and that's all I want.
Yeah. Since you didn't grow up as a donut kid yourself, did
Yeah.
you have to interview donut kids in order to get into their mindset and to really understand the struggles that were there? How did you go about picking like the main themes you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, the like I think I'm growing up not as a donut kid, but growing up as a kid that their family owns a business.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a lot of those things mesh together very well. Like we can pull from that. So I just kind of imagined myself as I wrote the story to just reflect that, where the family kind of owns like this business, and the kid is like, do they really want to be working there for the rest of their life or not? They would struggle with that. And I felt like that can translate to not just being working at a donut shop, but working as any like small family business, because the other generation, like your mom, your dad, your grandparents, they're seeing something very like right there, like something they haven't seen in a long time, like they just came from this war torn country with nothing. And here is a business that is consistently bringing in money, and any amount of money is a lot of money because before they had no money. So
Right.
they see it as a sure way of succeeding. And when I grew up, I always respected it. I knew that that's what was putting food on our table. There was a lot of pressure into kind of working with them and maybe taking it over, and like they wouldn't say it outright. They'll say stuff like, stay in school so you don't have to work like us. Like I heard that
Yep.
a million times. Stay in school so you don't have to work with us. But then at night I would go and work with them. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so what do you want me to do? But it was just like this constant struggle. And then, yeah, you want to help them because they're your parents, but you also just kind of want to do your own thing. And hopefully that will get you somewhere, and that's something that we all deal with no matter what workplace we're in.
Yeah. And I also like to emphasize too that like I feel like as Cambodian Americans, the pressure to take on the family business is only that much more emphasized, and you feel extra guilt, honestly,
Mm,
because they had already survived a war,
yes.
and starting a business is not easy in America. And so you know that growing up, you had watched your parents pour and pour and pour themselves doing backbreaking work
Mm-hmm.
to support this business that they have created. And I feel like that already adds an extra layer of pressure versus
Yeah.
other people in other cultures who may just be like, oh yeah, my family started a business and like they want me to take it over. It's like, no, like specifically as Cambodian Americans, there's an extra layer of guilt, I think,
Mm-hmm.
almost if we don't, because it was that much more meaningful because they actually survived a war and then with the rest of their lives basically poured everything they had into this business to support you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like saying no to that is a little bit harder
Yeah. Yes.
than just saying simply no because my family started a business.
I agree. I think it's so hard to say no. And whenever they ask for help, I just do it,
How
like,
do you say no? Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
how do you say no? It's just,
same with me, and I think so many other Cambodian Americans out there know exactly what that feels like.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the filmmaking process. You
Okay.
knew you wanted these certain aspects to be shown. You wanted it to be about the donut store. You wanted the boxing to be incorporated. How long did it take? And what would you say was very, very important to you? What was the most important aspect when it came to putting the film together?
I'll start from the beginning. So I took this class. It's a screenwriting class. I wrote a feature in that class. It was a class to write a feature. You spend 6 months on it. You're going to get this 90 to 100 page story script format. That's, whether it's good or bad, who knows? But, it's complete. From that, I wanted to get into this kind of like this thesis class where you had to submit a thesis, like a 12 to 15 page script, and then get selected to make it with the support of the school. And then I took that feature idea and condensed it into a very small moment, like this choice where Bo has to decide what he really wants to do in life. And I got into that class with this script that is nowhere near what was shot. There's so many different aspects in it. But in this class, this thesis class, we went over the script every week. We were rewriting it, getting notes. We would get 8 pages of notes every week because the faculty says that we have to write 1 page of notes for everyone. And there was 8 of us.
Wow.
So everyone would turn in their notes to you like, oh, here's your notes for your story. And so you go home with 8 pages of notes
of
about
criticism.
your film. Yeah, of criticism. So you got to sit there and also they read it to you out loud.
Oh, yeah.
In class. So you're going to sit there and you're going to listen, and then they give you the paper copy, and then you're like, okay, time to go home. And so we were doing that, and that lasted for the summer, maybe about 4 to 5 months. In that time, we were prepping to shoot it. So we were trying to gather funds. We were trying to gather a team. And so when it came to, I think we shot in November of 2022, I think it was. We started in the summer of 2022, shot in November of 2022. And then I think we finished everything. I know we locked everything the day of my graduation. So yeah, it was so wild. So me and my DP, Daniel, we literally on our day, full dress gown and everything, we go to Norris Theater to check if our movie was going to play correctly because it was screening the next day. So day of graduation, we get there. He brings his family. I have Yaita, my grandparents, my mom. They're all coming with me, my brother, my sisters. And then I get to the theater. I was like, you guys, I have to do this real quick and just check the levels.
Check that this actually plays. I'll be right back.
Yeah. And so we go into the theater. And Daniel's up on the projector, and then we're screening it, and I'm sitting in the middle of the theater alone. My family's in the back. Some of them are watching. Some are just kind of just there. And then we finish it. And I was like, okay, let's go graduate. So we walk like, a couple blocks down to the shrine. That's where we were graduating. I was getting them all situated. It was crazy, but we knew that it was going to work the next day. So that's why it had to be done. And that was May of 2023. So it took a while to get it finished. And then paperwork, the school is very adamant about getting paperwork and doing things safely. They're just trying to protect us from everything. We couldn't finalize all the paperwork until maybe fall of 2023. And that's when they cleared us to do whatever we want with the film.
When you say paperwork, do you mean like rights?
Yeah, like get all the rights, all the crew memos, the crew deals, get all of that situated in a PDF. That we have this PDF of our project that's like 300 to 400 pages. It just has all the documents in it, so they can flip through that and find every document, so that no one can pull a quick one on you. So yeah. They wanted that. So everything had to be clear. Whatever you're hearing had to be given permission. Whatever you're seeing had to be given permission. And yeah, we didn't do our last and final paperwork came in around like October, November. And that's when it was like off to the races. And then that's when I started applying to all these festivals. So it took a
Yeah.
while. It's like a whole year. And I think the second part of your question, I think, was the most important. The most important about this process was like, if you set out to make this action boxing with whatever, there's a lot of moving parts and different set pieces, and you're trying to show an authentic Tacoma story, I felt like the most important part of it was not to compromise it. As students or as like first time filmmakers, we tend to do a lot of shortcuts, or even because we don't have any money, we're all in school, we tend to write a story that's maybe too big for your budget. And so
Mm.
when you get to shoot it, it doesn't look or feel the way you want it to feel. And from the beginning, I told my producer, David, Bela, and Mary, that I don't want to compromise this film, and let's do it and let's make it the best we can. If we're putting a boxing scene in it, let's get the right people to choreograph it and do it correctly, and safely. I think that's one of the most important things about filmmaking, is not compromising your vision.
Yeah. And by compromise, do you also mean by like making sure that it's authentic to, this is a story about, based in Tacoma. So like making sure that it felt like Tacoma, that if it was boxing, it
Yes.
felt like boxing. It was a donut shop, it felt like a donut shop, right?
Yes.
Because compromising, you're saying just making sure that you're staying as authentic as possible with the budget that you have, right?
Yeah. And, and sometimes, yeah, we make tough decisions. And if you can't find the money and stuff like that, it was a little tough, because you're already so far into the process or whatnot. I have very good producers. They were great. So they were able to give me a budget and we worked with it. And,
Mm-hmm.
there was, I think we went under budget. Like we budget a lot more, but we went under budget, but it still costs quite a bit. But just knowing that we weren't blindsided by any extra costs or anything like that, kind of helped us a lot. So,
Yeah. You made sure to hire Cambodian actors and
yes.
actresses. And
Yeah.
actually, you can hear Khmer being spoken in the short film, which is cool, by the
Yes.
mom. Was it hard to find Khmer actors and actresses to play your roles?
It is so hard to find my
Yeah.
actors.
Because when I saw mom on there, I was like, how did he get her to do this? Like, I know for sure
Yes.
my mom would not want to be on screen. So, like, how did you go about finding these people?
It was so wild. We have a casting director. Her name is Dee Weiss, and she casted The Harvest, which was a film that was directed by Kaylee So. And so she was working with a lot of like Southeast Asians for that. It felt like a no-brainer to pick her to be the casting director. And she found Bo and Ritti and of course Mina. She found all of them. We did have a lot of problems finding the mom
Mm-hmm.
because
Where are you going to
so
find
hard.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
where do you
Where are
find
you going
that?
to find
Right.
that?
It's like because all the people that would audition were all of Asian descent and would be perfect of playing moms and stuff like that. They were all great. And I went to my faculty mentor, Peter Solid, and he was like, okay, do you need the mom to be Cambodian? Can she speak English? And I was like, you know, not many people know English at this age, and it'll be like broken English. And I didn't want like
Right.
someone to just come in and speak broken English. I was like, no, she has to be Cambodian. She's like the whole rock of the movie,
Yep.
so she had to be. And so I looked at a bunch of auditions, and then the stunt coordinator. So I got desperate. So I just emailed the cast and I emailed the cast and emailed the crew. I was like, all right, guys, we're having a lot of problems finding a Cambodian mom. Does anybody know anybody who would like to try to audition for this? And the stunt coordinator, Malai Kim, shout out to Malai, and he goes, I know this woman. Well, first he was like, I'll ask my mom.
I was like, anybody's mothers or grandmothers
Yes.
who had
So
never thought about being in a movie but would like to try.
yeah, so he was like, I'll ask like my aunt or my mom or something. And he goes, okay, well, they don't want to do it because, you know, they're out of the game. They were Cambodian actors in Cambodia. So they were
Oh.
like, they were out of the game. They didn't want to do it. But then one of them was like, oh, you know, I have this goddaughter. Like a god, like that's how old they
Mhm.
were. Then I have this
Mhm.
goddaughter who, you know, she's not really an actor, but she's interested in acting because she's a goddaughter of a really like one of the famous actor, right?
Mhm.
And so I get her contact, emailed her up, and I was like, hey, can we meet? You know, and can I talk to you? I just want you to see maybe if you're good for this part. And I was like, okay, we don't need to audition her. We don't need to do anything. We're just gonna say yes to her. And then my faculty mentor was like, no, you gotta, and he's right. He is 100% right. He's like, no, you gotta see how she is.
Mhm.
You gotta go and audition her. You know, you gotta go see if she can take directions and things like that. And I was like, oh my God, it's so hard to find a mom already. What if she doesn't do it, you know?
You're like, I'm desperate here. Like, I
Yeah,
will
I'm so
literally take.
desperate. I was so desperate. And then me and David, we went to Long Beach at her workplace. We
Mm.
set up a camera and a microphone, and I gave her the script. And then we have these audition videos too. And I was like, can you just read these? And then I was giving her directions. And yeah, you know, and something that is kind of difficult when we're translating Cambodian to screen is that we're
Mm.
used to seeing the dub versions of Khmer being spoken on screen. And those are so proper. Those are like, you know, like complete sentences and the same fluctuations that are like, no one would say it like that, you know?
Mhm.
And it took a little bit of work, but the great thing about Ming Vanra is that she understood it completely. She's like, oh, okay, I get. So you just want me to like yell, like this is how I'm talking to like maybe my child
Mhm.
for like skipping school or something. I was like,
Right.
yes. Like, what would you say at that moment? And I would audition some lines that she would say, and then I was like, yeah, it's just like that. I know it sounds, you know, mean and kind of direct, but that's how my mom would say it to me.
You're like,
So
you're like, it's bringing back trauma from my childhood.
yeah,
That's exactly what I want. Thank
that's
you,
exactly,
Ming.
yes, thank you
You're
for yeah, exactly. Like she was like in one of the scenes she's yelling at Bo, and she exits off screen, and she says the line, she says it, and she's exiting like this, like, oh my God, I can't believe you know, like she's like uh because she's so nice, she's like super
Yeah.
nice, and she exit, and then yeah, it was great, and she was perfect for it. So but yes, very difficult to find Khmer actors. But that was also something we did not want to compromise. We were like, I mean, I came to film school to put the right people in the right places. And the faculty, the producers, everyone was so helpful and to bringing that alive and making sure we had the right people. So
Yeah. I think that's exactly what makes this so special is the fact that you were so adamant on not compromising, on keeping this authentic as possible. And when we say Cambodian story, it's what we mean. Cambodian mom, Cambodian child, Cambodian language. All those elements build up to what makes this resonate with so many Cambodian Americans. And the reason why I can see why this is so successful with your tour that you were on. So,
yeah, very
I wanted
grateful.
to, yeah, no, I think it's incredible. I love watching this success. I feel like towards the end of the film, it leaves a little bit. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but it leaves a little bit of interpretation for the audience. And you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of allows us to ponder which way he decided to take.
Mm.
Was it meant to be that way? Was it meant to be written that way?
For me, when I wrote it, there was a clear ending for me. Like there's a specific ending that I wanted to see. I think what maybe is there's a lot that just happened to him, you know, and I wanted a scene where it shows how he would deal with it and how he would move forward, because a lot of things happen, and I wanted to feel like there's a little bit of hope in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to feel like, did it have to cost that much? Can we be hopeful and not have it cost that much? And that's what I wanted the mindset of Bo to be at the end. And I thought he gave like a really great performance right there, because when people see it, he kind of has this nuance about it. Like there's things to celebrate, but also things to reflect on. And I think at that moment, he's clear on what he wants. He would do the things that he wants to do the way he wants to do it. And knowing that there is support and that there is like a system that will help him thrive in it while also not alienating anybody. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
For everybody who is listening, you have to check out this short film. The themes that I feel like are the biggest that came up to me were, struggling between family obligations, as we mentioned, between family obligations versus his passions, and then also learning how to balance that with like outside influences, family members who may not be that great for you and your mental health and your path of success. You are killing it in the film space, if I can say that lightly. You are on your film tour right now, and it's winning all these awards and being selected for so many of these festivals. How does it feel to receive all these accolades, having it be kind of the first big film that you have produced and written and directed?
Yeah. Honestly, I just don't know how to act. I like to celebrate all the small moments because, moments are precious. And so I'm always celebrating the littlest things. But when my cousin, who was the first to get into dental school and is now a dentist, I was just like, it's our first time here. We don't know how to act, like our family's been poor forever. And now you're a dentist, that's just upgraded our whole family. And we just try to stay true to ourselves. We're very grateful for, the community that's behind us, that supports us, the family that is supporting us. The film is not just me, like you look at the credits and there's like 40 to 50, I don't know how many people, and everyone gave it their all. They believed in the film, and we had a great time on set, and they just believed in it to the point where they were, wanted it to make it, to be a part of it, to make it successful. So shout out to the cast, the crew, for making this film the way it is, because if it wasn't for them, like none of this would happen, and I'm always grateful for them, and I can never thank them enough. Yeah, I'm just very grateful to have all this, to win something. But, honestly, one of my professor, she was saying that, you can get into this festival and wait for it to premiere at this festival, but I don't think you really care where it premieres, right? And I was just like, yeah, I just want people to see it. If it gets in at this little festival here, I'm going there. I don't care. So, and that's what I wanted. I just want people to see it, people to take something from it. They don't have to like it. They don't have to love it. They don't, just go and watch it, and maybe hopefully it opens up something that you feel that is important inside of you. So,
what would you say is the one main big takeaway that you want your audience to take away from this short film?
The main takeaway is that I just want the different generations to communicate with each other. Like we have all of our differences. Like you said, like some of us feel and know that they have given so much to be here and to work and stuff. But also some don't understand that. Like they don't see that. But then also the other generation, the older generation, don't understand where the newer generation is trying to be, and what they have to deal with like the schools and stuff like that. The only thing we have in common is trauma, so it's like trauma from there, trauma from here. I just want this movie to just open up some dialogue, to like, hey, maybe it can work. maybe I just need to be honest and talk about some things, and hopefully we can find a way to mend all of our hearts and live the life that we're supposed to live.
What is the end goal here, Bunthoeun? If you were to say after this film, if it was the end all be all goal, what is that for you?
For this film or for me in general?
For you in general.
Oh, for me, it's so hard to get like anything made in Hollywood. I would love for a chance to make something, to make something I feel that is important, that I feel like the world needs to see. And the end goal is to be able to do that, and to do that, living healthily, a healthy life, and I see myself making more movies and more TV shows, like just so that maybe again, someone can take something from it and try to heal what they need to heal. So,
do you think Hollywood is ready for Cambodian American storylines, or are we still kind of far away from that?
If we're talking about readiness, we're ready. I think we need to see different aspects of America. For a while, we just had the same thing over and over again, but America is so unique. It's like this giant melting pot of stories of different people, and not all of us have had the same time on screen. So I think we are definitely ready. I think people want something kind of different and unique. They don't want to get stuck in this monotonous kind of watching the same thing over and over again. So they want some new faces, some new culture, I guess, to lack of a better word, to be seen. Making movies is super expensive. I always urge people to help out and to find ways to champion these stories, because without everybody's involvement, we're not going to be able to show these movies. So that's why I'm very glad for meeting the people I've met here, like Kaylee and Kevin and stuff. Like, they're trying to really push it forward and trying to make it so that we're more seen on screen.
Yeah.
Like the Cambodian Town Film Festival is super, super nice because it showcased a bunch of story from all diaspora of Cambodian Americans and Cambodia. And I think that's so important because it just needs more eyes on it. And then hopefully someone realizes that, hey, this is kind of cool. And these movies are really, really important. And it made me feel this way. So I think it might make other people feel that way.
Yeah. I think America, let's say if you were to compare it to like the French media space. In France, they have Riti Pan, who is out there, who is a, big champion for Khmer stories, but the reality is it's all in French. I feel like for me, at least, I had been waiting for somebody in the art movie director space to kind of take that role in America, because I feel like we have yet to fill that. And not that it only needs to be filled by one, but like, many of us can start telling our stories. And I'm just so glad that this space is growing. It makes me so happy that you had created a film for us. What is next for you, Bunthoeun?
Ultimately, I want to make some like genre films and stuff, but I have some things that I'm working on that I might try to push. I'm getting into like all stories about Cambodians at the moment, and specifically Cambodian Americans dealing with how to live in Cambodia. And so I'm writing this short about a Cambodian exorcism and what that looks like here in America and what that can be like. And then also I'm working on this new feature idea where it's basically a road trip movie where this one woman who moves to like a big city in New York trying to be like a playwright or something. And she gets a phone call from her siblings at home in Tacoma, because, shout out Tacoma. They're like, you got to come home. Our mom is dying. And she goes back home and she just realizes that her mom is possessed by a ghost or something.
Oh, wow.
And they have to take a road trip because they can't afford to send the healers to Tacoma. They have to take a road trip with her possessed mom to go meet this healer to hopefully heal her.
Is the possession a representation of the trauma?
The possession, I had this really weird story that I experienced when I was younger. My aunt, or my third aunt, I don't know. I call her Yay, but she's
One of the yays.
yeah, one of the Yays. And she was like, we get this phone call and she's like, oh, you have to come now. My grandma's like, you have to come now. She's like talking to her husband. And she's like, why? It's like, oh, she's possessed. So we go there in the middle of the night. And then I was like, I don't know, 6th grade, 7th grade. I forgot how old I was. And I'm like in there with my cousins and stuff. And we're just like, what the hell is going on? You know? Yeah. So it was like, we don't know that was like not grandma. I just thought it was like weird because we didn't know what to think of it. So some of us was laughing. Some of us was like really scared. And so I just thought maybe there's a balance somewhere in between. This road trip is kind of like a dramedy, like a drama comedy. And it's about a family having to come together. That's it. Yeah.
Well, I know that all of our listeners are going to be so excited for any of your new projects that come out. Where can people find you, Bunthoeun? And specifically, I know that you are on your tour. So what are your next stops for the next couple months? And where can people find the rest of your projects?
Okay, so if you want to watch Donut Boy on the big screen, because that's how you can watch it now, it's playing at Local Sighting in Seattle on September 21st in their Next of Kin block, I think. And right now, actually, on September 15th, it's playing at the Cambodia Town Film Festival in Long Beach. So come check that out. It's the closing ceremony. I don't know when this is going to drop. So this might not make it in time.
Might be already passed. Yeah.
Yeah, that might have already passed. But looking forward, Local Sighting, September 21st, the Tacoma Film Festival in October 11th, I think it is. That's also where you can watch it at the Tacoma Film Festival. And then this hasn't been announced yet, but I can announce it because the press release already went out. We are screening at the San Diego International Film Festival, and that's happening October 17th. So those are our screenings at the moment.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bunthoeun, for coming on here and sharing about just the whole process, the whole journey behind the Donut Boy. I myself, as I said before, but just like being a donut kid myself, it's kind of crazy that just I feel like within the past couple years, people have been coining the term donut kid, donut boy, donut girl. When I was growing up, I really didn't feel like it was anything to be named and anything that was special. It was just my experience. But within the last couple years, with this film coming out and artists that are doing drawings around donut kids and donut boxes, it's made me feel validated.
Yeah.
You know, it's made me feel validated, and it made me feel like, you know, those things that I had experienced being a donut kid, those are okay to feel whatever I felt, whether it be resentment or why am I working at the donut shop when everyone else is playing, and why do I have to sacrifice all this time, and why do I have to feel like I have to put my family first, and all these things, all these themes are really showcased in this short film. So I wanted to say thank you, Bunthoeun, for this amazing short film. It really honestly is getting all the highlights that it completely deserves, and I hope that you continue to champion Cambodian American films. It may not feel like you can't see all of us watching it, but your impact is being made. And for that, I thank you.
Of course. Thank you. That's so nice. Thank you. Well, I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad you got something from it. So it was a wild ride, but also a pleasure in making it. So I had a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you.